Hello crazy people, in this week I'm going to show you how I created this composition here step by step from shooting to editing. And if you haven't yet watched the video from last week, please do. It was a lot of fun, but for now stay with me and let's do this. So the idea was for me to be a bad angel. I'll be very honest with you, I didn't quite like the final results. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. So I started by setting up my backdrop. I used the white cloth because I knew I would put myself into a lighter background, so that would make my life easier on Photoshop. Set up my camera and took the shot. I had to sort of find the other elements on the internet, so I had to look for elements that I could use that were copyright free in order for me to use. The bad thing about having to outsource your elements in your composition is that one, you probably will have to pay for it, so then you can get a high resolution image. And if you don't want to pay like myself, it's really hard to find elements that you actually can use for free and they are in a good resolution. In this case, I didn't care much. I'm here only to play and do the composition. But if you think that you're gonna sell the portrait, you're gonna sell your composition, you're gonna sell print and sell your prints, you may consider paying for the elements. In this case, I only tried to find elements I could use and I was not really worried about the resolutions. I set it up with my Godox light, my AD200, not my big light, just a small light at the top, because I knew I would be outside and ideally I knew I would wanted a background with a lighting shining sort of the top of me, so that's easier for you when you know the directions of your lights and stuff to go to Photoshop and compose them all together, because the light needs to make sense. So I used my 50mm lens for the shot. My eyes was at 250, my aperture was 5.6 because I wanted me to be pretty much on focus, and my shutter speed was 125. Now I'm going to show you how I edit on Photoshop. I'm gonna try to be very brief, so I'm gonna run into the editing. If you have any questions, please leave in the comments, but otherwise it would take too long to show you every single thing and how I did it. Okay, so I started by finding a background for my image. Unfortunately, I had to find a stock image. This is a free stock image. I found the Adobe stock. Usually I do recommend you to go and shoot your backgrounds, because then you can use freely. However, you still can use the copyright free stock images like this one. The problem is that you may not find the ideal one, like I didn't find. I had to work with what I got, and also they may be in the lower resolution than you wanted to. In this case, I had to crop it, so I obviously lost some resolution. I'm just going to close. So I cropped it and that's it. The picture I chose of me was this one to use. So I started by masking me and put myself on the background. And then I wanted some wings, and I also found those wings here that are copyright free. The resolution was pretty good. They look a tad fake, but well, I didn't care. But again, I would recommend you to shoot your own wings. I thought about buying some wings, but I couldn't because I was in lockdown. So that's what I came up with, and I was like, yeah, I can work with that. So I added the wings. Obviously I did cut one side of the wings and place it twice, and then I started to work out in the composition, creating shadows, light and stuff that you have to do to make your picture more realistic. In this case here, those are the shadows that I started adding. In this case here, I created this shadow by putting this, creating a layer, putting on multiply. You see also that I put the opacity pretty low. However, the opacity, I started painting and then I played with the opacity. You get a brush and then you sample a color around where you wanted to paint your shadows and start to brush your shadows. Okay, it's pretty easy, but there are other ways to do shadows. This is one of the ways. Then I start to create some light. So I added feathers. I photographed these feathers because I had feathers. Here is the image of the feathers. So I just masked the ones I wanted and put it on the composition. Then start to put lights on feathers. So you sort of have to see where the light is coming from, where it's going to hit. I already had a light on the top of me when I photographed, so I knew there was some light and had to have this light coming from here and hitting me here. So we started to create shadows and lights to match everything in the composition. Okay, so all needs to make sense, like they were in the same place and space when it was shot. More shadows. So I started to just create shadows, and with the curves here, I light up myself a little. So you start to play around. See, now I put more, that's not shadow, that is a light, but that's okay. So I started to create shadows. You can do, like in this case, I just made it darker because it's at the back, and I use brightness and contrast for that. You can use curves as well, like I did here. More shadows. Obviously I had to create shadows here because it's like I was trying to make it more realistic, like it was coming out of my back, those wings. So I recommend you to play around and then look up and see if it looks realistic. If not, keep going with your lights and shadows until you find something that you're satisfied with. Okay, so then I add birds. I was like, that's okay for now. I probably will change at the end, but you know, let's add some more elements. I thought the sky was too empty, so I added birds. So that was the first bird I added. You can see here that I did a blur because he was in a distance. Again, those birds were those ones here. They are also stock image. You can see this is my library of stock images. When you get stock from Adobe, they can stay in your library, and this is really good because there are some free images there. So I just masked. It was really easy because the background was white, and I added the birds. Okay, let me just close those feathers. Okay, so I don't know if that was the right order, guys. I'm just going around and seeing how I think I did it. Probably I didn't edit smoke at this point, but oh wow. So I added smoke. Smoke is really good for you to create atmosphere. So I added cloud. This is also cloud brushes that you can have. And you also can take photos of clouds and place it in an image. It's not hard. So I add another bird. This bird here is less blurred because he's a bit more in the front. So I did a little bit of burning dodge in myself. That creates a bit more contrast between shadows and lights. You can see. Amazing. You can use those burning dodge tools to do it. Okay, it's amazing. You have to use it. So then I started to color grade my image. I started with hue saturation, so I desaturated the picture, and I create a curve. So in this curve here, you see that I put it up on the shadows, which make that funny look, but then, and you lose a little bit of contrast, but then if you put it down here a little, you get that contrast back. And I did a color lookup, and I used the horror blue LUT that you'll find on Photoshop. That's a standard one. And then I got a texture that I downloaded from an artist that I really like. I very much like her, Brooke Shading, and she gives her texture for free. So I used her texture this time. So textures are really good to give like that painterly look to an image. And I did the final touch on Camera Raw. When I go to Camera Raw for do my final touch, usually what I do is adding vignette. I do add a little bit. In this case, I put the highlights down, but and the vibrance is up. So usually I go in the sharpening area to sharpen the image a little, and go to effects to add a vignette, and that is the final image. That's how I transformed this picture here that I took at my tiny room in my unit to something like that, a bit more artistic and a bit more of a cool composition. That's it, guys. I hope you liked this comp more than I did. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to give me a like. Share with your friends if you'd like to. Go to my Instagram and you can have a look on the other pictures I have there. And I will see you next week with another project. Bye bye.